Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of The Daily. It's Wednesday, May 18th, here with Simon Borg. I'm Nick Fershaw. And Simon, let's start with an exclusive interview on MLSsoccer.com. AS Roma President Thomas Di Benedetto telling our own Greg Seltzer that he definitely has some interest in American stars and bringing them to the Serie A. Landon Donovan and Michael Bradley included. What do you expect?
Well, yesterday I was the first one to call the reports coming out of Italy hogwash, that this was not a scenario that was going to happen. But our own Greg Seltzer spoke to Tom Di Benedetto, the new AS Roma owner, and he says that there are a number of, as you said, a number of Americans he's interested in, and sources indicate in other reports that there is already $14 million on the table waiting for a bid for Landon Donovan. I think there's a long way to go between saying you have the money and actually making the bid. So I'd like to see this come to fruition. I think maybe it's just a ploy to get some attention for his club in the U.S. market.
Some other names mentioned in this report, Juan Agudelo, as well as former MLSers Brad Guzan and Sasha Kljestan. So we'll have to see how that turns out. Stay tuned to MLSsoccer.com as that story develops. Let's move on to the Nutrilite Canadian Championship. Wednesday night, the Vancouver Whitecaps playing host to Toronto FC, 11 p.m. This is the first leg of the two-leg series. And Simon, what do you expect out of this one?
Well, they already played each other in league play. First game of the season, Vancouver won that one. They haven't won since in league play. This is a whole nother story. It's a two-leg final series. It's going to be a tight one. Toronto, with the away goal, they know they would have a good advantage going into their home leg next week. But for Vancouver, the surprising thing, to hear Jonathan Leathers, after all these injuries to attacking players, coming out and saying he's going to tackle hard. That's how he plans to stop Toronto's João Plata.
Well, on the Whitecaps side, Eric Hasley and Jay Demerit expected back in the lineup. This will be the first time they've been on the field together since that season opener you mentioned against Toronto FC. And for the Reds, Alan Gordon did not travel with the team, so obviously he won't be with the group Wednesday night. We know that the Nutrilite Canadian champions advanced to the Concacaf Champions League. You can find the Concacaf Champions League draw today on MLSsoccer.com. Find out where some of your favorite teams are headed. And one last thing, Simon. The Cascadia Cup rivalry, even days after that draw Saturday night up at Questfield, keeps on getting better. John Spencer, the Portland Timbers head coach, coming out and talking tough this week.
Yeah, and if you remember, Ziggy Schmidt, Seattle Sounders manager, said the rain on that day, they finished 1-1 on Saturday, played in the hands of the Portland Timbers in their direct play, looking for set pieces. And John Spencer took exception to that. He said if they're complaining about the rain, maybe Seattle should change markets. Or maybe even better, Portland brings some towels to dry the field for Seattle in the next game they play at Quest. And one thing in particular that got under Spencer's skin, this whole notion of, looking for set pieces makes Portland less of a team. He pointed out how many set-piece goals there were in MLS over the weekend, and that his team just taking advantage of their strength.
Well, a lot of comments from both Sounders and Timbers fans on the site. You can find that story on MLSsoccer.com. And for all the latest headlines, the Nutrilite Canadian Championship and the Concacaf Champions League, log on to MLSsoccer.com.